Bienvenidos a un episodio más de LEGADO Live. En esta ocasión me da mucho gusto estar acompañada de un colega, amigo, Andrew Keyt, quien es CEO and founder of Generation 6 Family Enteprise Advisors, una firma de consultoría internacional que ayuda a las familias empresarias a trazar la ruta de continuidad en este apasionante mundo de las empresas familiares. Andrew, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
It's a pleasure, and I would like you to share with us the work that you have done over the last 20 years, working with families, but also finding the way in which you could understand better and make us understand better how these shadows and men and women in our lives can bring us, a push or a pull in a way that we're still figuring out the way to advance, and I would love to hear your approach.
Yeah, so I was a part of the Next Generation Leadership Institute and building the Next Generation Leadership Institute at Loyola University Chicago, which is an 18-month leadership development course for successors. So that was really the inspiration and connecting with my own personal story of being a successor in a family business. I wanted to really understand what are the challenges that successors face when taking over from their parents. Because in a family business, you're born into a story that's already being told. People are already talking about the history of your family, the history of your business. Sometimes they're talking about your parents, your great-grandparents, and these amazing things that these people did. So the challenge for the successor is to figure out their own place in that story and to write their own part of that story. So to do that, I embarked on a research project, and with the help of my good friends, Dr. Joe Astrachan and Dr. Torsten Pieper, I pursued grounded research theory method of interviewing successors to understand what are the commonalities of the successors that are able to successfully take over for their parents and establish their own style of leadership, their own ability to lead the company in new directions. So over the course of 3 or 4 years, I interviewed about 28 different successors, and we created transcripts of all of those interviews. And we were fortunate enough to interview some really amazing successors like Bill Wrigley and Christy Hefner, John Tyson, Massimo Ferragamo. And so we took these transcripts and then we coded different themes and ideas that were brought up by the successors as a part of the interview process. And once we had coded the interviews and we had tested the codes to make sure that they were reliable by having multiple people assess the coding, we did some statistical analysis about what the most successful successors do to step out of the shadows of their parents, to understand the story that's being told about their parents, but not let that completely define who they are, and how they establish their own sense of identity when everybody's comparing them to their parents and grandparents.
And how did you know when to stop? Like how this approach tells us.
Right. So this is an exploratory research method, and you stop interviewing when you stop having new themes coming up in the interviews. When you keep hearing the same themes, you reach what we call saturation, right? So when there are no new themes coming out, you make the assumption that you've reached saturation in the data, and then you start to analyze it and figure out how you're going to use and communicate what you've learned.
How many aha moments did you find or even face when you were going through that data and see how your life reflected on those insights from your interviews?
Yeah. So, one of the unique things about my story is I didn't really know we had a family business. My dad kind of kept us hidden from the family business because he felt like he didn't want to burden us with the challenge of dealing with his family, his cousins and those situations. So I found out the day before I became a family business owner that I was going to be inheriting this family business. So it was a very personal story, hearing the stories of these different successors, and all of them really had this sense of, I felt very alone, as I did in that situation. I didn't know what family business was at the time, and so one of the things that really resonated for me was that all of these successors had these moments when they felt very alone and like nobody could understand what they were going through. And I think that's probably why many of them wanted to be so generous with sharing their stories as a part of this research, was because they didn't want others to feel as alone as they felt.
Yeah. But at the same time, afterwards, this loneliness and this feeling has been overpassed or successfully, overcome. But what are those insights that you can tell us a bit more regarding this stepping out of the shadows, as you mentioned, that it's basically what helped them at the same time be who they are afterwards?
There are three main things that emerged from the research. One was the importance of self-awareness, knowing who I am, what I'm good at, and what I'm passionate about doing, and not just doing something because my parents told me to do something. The second is differentiation, which is a psychological concept. It's learning how to stand separate and apart from your parents but stay connected to them. So it's realizing that you can have different opinions, and that doesn't mean you don't love your parents. It doesn't mean you can't stay connected with your parents. It's really, in simplified terms, it's the process of becoming a mature adult, right? And then the third thing is credibility, understanding how to build credibility. And there are two aspects of credibility that emerge from the research. One was internal credibility, which is, how do I feel credible in who I am and what I'm doing? And how do I build belief in myself? And then there's external credibility, which is, how do I build trust and credibility with others, right? So internal credibility is a part of that self-awareness process, is what am I good at? Have I built a track record of success that I can believe that I can do this? Am I supported by people who have helped me to believe that I can do this? And then external credibility is, have I built a track record in how I treat people and how I perform and the results that I've provided, that people can see me as credible? One of the families I work with has a concept of followership. And I love that term because you don't really become a leader until you have people who will follow you. So external credibility is, am I developing followership? Do people trust me and my abilities, and am I seen as credible? Or do people see me as just an entitled young person, right?
Yeah. So what's next, Andrew, in this pathway of your professional career as a researcher, not only as a successful consultant, but also as a researcher?
I'm really interested actually now in exploring the experience of the parents, because there's this succession challenge that everybody talks about is, at its essence, a conversation between the generations. And it's a conversation between the generations where we figure out, what do we need to hold on to about who we are as a family and a business, and what do we need to change moving forward so that we can adapt to market circumstances, invigorate the business for new opportunities, and grow and expand for the future. And that really comes down to a conversation between the generations. So this first research project was really around the next generation and how they experience the succession process. And I'd really love to explore, and I'm going to explore with the parents' generation, what's their experience of this, and what are the challenges that they're facing? Because I think it's understudied. Looking at next generation is really sexy because it's the young entrepreneurial innovation idea, but talking about the parents and letting go is understudied and understood.
Absolutely, totally agree. Thank you very much, Andrew.
Thank you.
Hasta aquí nuestro episodio Legado Live. Nos vemos en el próximo.